Hello everyone and welcome to the Hill Gardens. Last time we talked about how to get more for your dollar when it comes to buying seeds, where to buy, how to choose what you're going to grow, how much experimental stuff or new stuff you want to try. So today I want to talk to you about planning out your beds and choosing your seed starting supplies. Everyone has their own idea of how it should be done. We have ours. This is not the be all end all. You can choose any method that works best for you. So we're going to talk about what to pot in, what type of potting mix to get, grow lights, planning out your locations in your beds, and a little bit of companion planning as well, and I'll get more into that later. Right now, I'm assuming that you've already gotten your seeds and you have started looking at the information on your back of your seed packets, and I'm going to just pull one out for you here. These are a white cherry tomato. We are planting these sooner than what the package says because we have the room for it and we want to get our tomatoes a really good start. We have, I believe, 15 or 16 varieties of tomatoes that we're planting, and we're going to plant them on bamboo poles similar to these ones here. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen these at the garden center. They're really sturdy. They're hard to break. I tried snapping one over my knee one day and it just wouldn't work. So this is what we're going to trellis them up. The ones we actually have are 7 feet tall. This is a 6-footer. These are really inexpensive. I got 6 of these at Lowe's for a little over $3. So you don't have to go out and spend $3, $4, or $5 a piece if you're just looking at doing something that doesn't grow very tall. These 6-footers are perfect. Here is a seed packet, and these are the white cherry tomatoes, like I said, from M.I. Gardener. I shared a link before to them. There's 25 in here, and they are in annual. If you look at the back of the packet, there's a little chart on here along with growing information. It says if you're starting indoors or outdoors, how deep to plant, how far to space, the kind of spacing to put in between them. If you're doing single stemming where you only have one stem that goes up and you're doing them on a bamboo pole or 8-foot furring strip or anything of that nature, you can get away with putting them a foot apart because they're not going to bush out. If you are doing a determinate variety, you can't do that though. And what a determinate variety is, it only grows probably 3 or 4 feet tall, produces all of its tomatoes at once, they all ripen at once, and then it dies off, and you're done. And you take it out and you can plant something else in its spot. Indeterminates will produce all season. If you single stem them or there's just one going up a pole, then you can get probably 6, 7, 8 feet out of them, and they will produce more fruit all season. They'll ripen in different stages, which is great if you're planning on eating and you're not canning. If you're canning, determinate varieties are great because you can get all your tomatoes at once and can them all at once, and we'll talk about canning later. This also tells you how long it takes to germinate indoors versus outdoors. If you're growing indoors, it's 8 to 14 days. Typically, I find that tomatoes germinate in about 5 days. They break the surface, and it tells you how long they become mature. And typically a tomato is anywhere from 65 to 110 days depending on the variety. Your paste tomatoes are a little longer, your cherry tomatoes are a little less. So I'm assuming that you've already taken a look at planting, and on the back here it also says for early crop, start seeds indoors in pots or flats 5 to 7 weeks before last frost date. So how do you find your last frost date? I'll provide a link. You can either Google last frost date for and put in your zip code and it'll tell you your last frost date. Ours is May 15th and our first frost date is typically around They say September 15th. We actually get it about September 29th or 30th. I secure my packages in these little envelopes. You can get these at Walmart. I got these ones on Amazon, but I have other ones that I got at Walmart. They were $2 for 100 of them for 4x6, and it just keeps your seeds dry and airtight, and you spill a little bit of water on them, your seed packets normally ruin. This keeps them safe, so that's what I do. You also need to think about, once you get them, if you're starting indoors, markers for your pots. And I've seen a lot of people go with the popsicle stick method. I'm not really fond of this because it doesn't hold up well in wet soil. They do degrade over time. My chosen method is little plastic markers. They're about 4.5 inches long, including the point. You can write on them with a permanent marker. Stick them in the soil. They're good for 1 or 2 seasons, and then you can just stick them in the ground. They're really easy to stick in when you take it out. And I got 500, and I don't even think it was $5 for 500. Again, Amazon. Amazon's a great resource for seed starting supplies. So let me bring you over and show you my plan for my bed and why I planted stuff where I planned it out at. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's our plan for our beds. This is one of our beds. This is our peppers, beets, cabbage, asparagus, beans, and peas. Now, peas don't really need a whole lot of space, especially since most of them need trellis. So we put our peas over here on the far side of the bed. We're going to connect the trellis to the fence over here, and we're going to plant them 1 to 1.5 inches apart. So over a 4-foot bed, we can get 24 to 18 pea seeds to grow. They'll grow about 6 or 7 feet tall. So we're going to put an 8-foot trellis on top of the bed made out of welded wire, and it's going to come up and our peas will connect there. Because they don't need a lot of space, because you're trellising them up, you can, it only takes up about 8 to 12 inches of your bed, and we went the entire 4 feet. We did them on the end so we could easily reach them. If we put them on the back side, they would be hard to reach. To harvest, this is a 4-foot wide bed, so this way we can get them from here. We can come around this side and grab them as well. Next to that, we have bush beans. You can do pole beans. Pole beans you would grow the same way as peas. Bush beans make a little tiny bush. You can fit 9 bean plants per square foot if you do square foot gardening. It's a high intensity gardening. You can get roughly 50 to 60 green beans, yellow beans, or purple beans per bush, depending on the variety. So within this 2-foot by 2-foot section, we're not going to be that close, but we are going to get 16 plants in here instead of 18. Well, actually, that's 4 square feet, so we could actually get 36 if we wanted to. We're going to keep it down to about 12 or 16. Next to that, beets. If you do companion planting, beets and beans do really well together. Beets, you can actually multi-sow like you do with onions. You can plant 3 or 4 into a pot, say like this, or into one cell, and they will grow on top of each other. And as the top one matures, you take it out, and or you can take out the younger ones and have tender beets. All depend on what you want to do with them. I would say take out the small tender ones and pickle them, which we'll talk about later. Next to that, we have 2 herbs, our thyme and oregano. These are both perennials, so these will grow here every year. We can dig them out and move them if we want to. Next to that, cabbages do really well next to thyme and oregano. So we have our Napa cabbage and our pak choi. We're doing 6 of each. They can get really big, but you can plant them pretty close together. These are each in their own 1-foot by 2-foot spot. Back here we have peppers. You do 1 pepper per square foot, 1 pepper plant. So we have a 2-foot wide section of the bed. We are growing 2 varieties of peppers. all the way down. We have 2 of each pepper, 8 varieties, so we took up a majority of the bed. Over here we have our asparagus, which we planted in last year. We have 3 asparagus plants over this 4-foot section. They're still fairly small. We may move them next year, we may move them the year after that if they get too big. So now we're going to flip over to our, this is half of our 18-foot bed. The top half by the gate. This is our tomatoes. We have, like I said, anywhere between 15 to 18 or 19 varieties of tomatoes. We're single stemming them on poles so we can put them 2 by 2 all the way down. In front of those, I like to put my onions next to my tomatoes because they grow really well together. My Kelsey and Brunswick onions are here. My leeks are here. We're putting in 20 leeks and 10 multi-sown sections of Kelsey and Brunswick onions each. Next to that are lettuces. Lettuce doesn't really like a lot of sun. It can bolt really quickly. It's an early spring or fall season crop. So we put our head lettuce in the back. Our onions, by the time they get up high enough, will overshadow these a little bit, so they'll kind of give them some filtered sun. Our ruby red lettuce and our black seeded Simpson here. Go on to the next page. On the back side, the second half of that bed, we have all of our cucumbers next to our pumpkins, next to our melons. Again, we're all single stemming these and putting them on poles. Cucumbers, you can actually do 3 seeds of cucumbers per cell, per pole. So we have some varieties we're going to do 2 of each, and some we're just going to do 1 that we haven't tried before. Again, it's that 10% rule. Tomatillos next to that, which grow pretty tall, and the corn in this corner of the bed. Corn tends to grow about 5 feet tall, so we really didn't want it to overshadow everything else here. And this is the west side of our bed, the east side over here. So as the sun comes up, all of this will get really nice sunlight. And that's why we put the tallest stuff on that side. If you're going to plant something tall, you're going to want to put it on the north or west side of your bed so it gets a lot of light but doesn't overshadow too much else. In front of that, we have our spinach. We're growing peanuts this year. We're going to try. We have a plot for celery, and next to that, squash. This is our herb bed, and we also have our eggplant here. This is the same end that the peas would have been at in the other bed, so this actually flips around the other way. We have potatoes, and then we have our herbs, lemongrass, dill, and chives. We're going to plant ginger here. That's going to be fun. We've never done that before. We're going to move our cilantro to where our parsley is, because cilantro and dill don't grow well together. So we're going to move this over here and put parsley here. Mint, rosemary, tarragon, parsley. These are all roughly 1.5 square feet sections, and then we have 4 varieties of basil going here. You can get roughly 6 to 8 herbs per section. Okay, and here we are on our last bed. This is the end that is the same as where the peas are on the other one. So the fence is right here, and we have a fence on this side. Our Brussels sprouts, we're going to plant 10 to 12 inches apart. They say 3 feet, but 60 days into the Brussels sprouts growth, you easily bend the leaves almost all the entire way down the stalk, and it gives room for the Brussels sprouts to grow. So you don't really need to have them 3 feet apart unless you leave them. Now, Brussels sprouts have a 110-day growing period, but they will last until our last frost date. So we can go out anytime, if we can get in the garden, during the winter and have fresh Brussels sprouts. You don't have to harvest them all at once and freeze them. Next to those, we're planting our radishes. We have 7 varieties of radishes. Most of them are small and lay on top of the soil. We do have some that are about 3 inches long. Those are the white icicles that go down in. And then we have our Spanish radishes, which we'll plant on the backside, because those have a 75-day growing period, where most radishes only have a 28. If you look on this side, this is our carrots. Again, 2 to 3 inches in between. You can fit a lot in a small space. We have 7 varieties there that we're growing. Carrots normally have a 75-day mature date. However, you can harvest them anytime after, I would say, 30 to 45 days if you want just small ones with no core. Or you can let them go and overwinter. They're biennial. They'll produce seed in the spring. And you can go out on a warm spring day and harvest fresh carrots. In front of that, we have 30 garlic. We planted 6 elephant garlic, 5 red Russians, and the rest, about 20 or 21 cloves, was your regular garlic that you would get at the grocery store. We actually got organic garlic from Walmart, and we planted that. That was planted in November, so that'll be one of the first things to grow this spring. Along here, you'll see these little dots here and here. Those are marigolds, because marigolds are a great deterrent for slugs. So if you plant a marigold 1 every foot, you can help keep slugs and other unwanted pests out of your garden. Also, marigolds are edible, so you can throw them in a salad as well throughout the season. They're great to attract pollinators, so marigolds are always great in the garden. Okay, so now that we've discussed planning out your bed, what to plant together, what we should keep away from each other, we've talked about the seed packets and when to plant. I would sit down with a pen and paper and list everything under, 6 to 8, 5 to 7, 4 to 6, and get all your stuff listed out as when you're going to grow, and find out when those dates are. And if your frost date is May 15th like ours, then 6 weeks before your last frost date would be April 1st. I plan stuff out on Sundays, and you would go from there. Now we have to talk about what to plant in. For tomatoes, which we're planting ours 4 to 6 weeks early because we have the space for it and we want bigger plants, starting in these little pots. This is one option. This is a 3x3 pot. It's got the drainage holes in the bottom for you, and we can fit 12 in this disposable roaster pan. So this gives us a great way to hold them, to move them, to transport them easily. You can also plant in these pans if you're planting things like radishes, which we'll talk about in a minute. But these are one option, and you only plant about half full, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks when we do our video for tomatoes. Soil half full, and as the tomato grows, you fill it up. So that's one option. We also have these little pouches, which come in 2 sizes. This is the one I would use for tomatoes. This for things like peppers, onions, beets. These are a mesh material, so the roots will actually grow through them. They're similar to the peat pots. They are biodegradable, but because they're mesh, the roots go through sooner. So once you get these in the ground, they'll start to break down over time, but your roots will go through and you'll have really, really healthy plants. So that's a second option. A third option is a seed starting tray. Here, this has 18 cells in it. This would cover all of our tomatoes, but we're actually going to use it for our cucumbers, our melons, and I think that's it. Cucumbers and melons. Because with cucumbers and melons, you put 3 seeds in each hole and you can grow 3 vines. Oh, we're also going to grow our pumpkins in here and grow 3 vines, but you need the space so they don't get tangled up. This also has a tray underneath that when you water, you put water in the tray. There's holes in the bottom of these. They're all interconnected. And you will bottom water. So these are a good option. And these fit under the Ferry Morse lights perfectly. So there's that option. So that covers tomatoes, melons, cucumbers. Now, we also have, for our things like celery, I think we're going to do our onions in these. We're going to do most of our vegetables that we're going to start indoors in these Pro Hex pots. There's 72. They're in a seed tray also. They come with a germination dome that fits on top. I really don't like these. It breeds mold in my opinion. They give you enough room, see how long those are, to get some really good healthy roots. And you can break these into two 36 by 36 sections. We're also going to start our lavender, our marigold, and a few of our other flowers in these as well. So that's another option. If you're planting things like radishes, heads of lettuce, herbs, and you can't have a raised bed garden, but you still want to start seeds indoors, you can actually plant in these. This is a disposable bread pan. It's like the roasting pan. In the roasting pan, I do heads of lettuce. In these, I just planted 32 radishes and 4 of them. We put them in a roasting pan, so when we bottom watered, which is where you pour the water into the pan, it sucks up the water. What it doesn't suck up, you dump out. And you can use it to plant other things. We use these for radishes. They're great to do microgreens and stuff like that. These are, I think you get 5 of them for $2 at Walmart. These are great to grow in. You can also do larger pots. If you're not doing very much and you want to start tomatoes or cucumbers or stuff in these, you can, but these are really big, they're really bulky. They take a lot of soil for as little as you're going to plant in them. I'm not a fan of big pots unless I'm doing a container garden. That's when I'll do these. Now you have to decide what you're going to plant in. And this is our growing medium of choice. This is the Jiffy Natural and Organic Seed Starting Mix. This is a sterile mix that consists of 50% peat moss. It does also have, I believe it's got some cocoa coir in it, and it's got vermiculite for aeration and water retention. This drains quickly, so you won't drown your plants. It packs really nicely. We are actually going to be adding some mushroom compost to ours because there's not a whole lot of nutrition in here. And where we're starting some of ours 12 weeks out, we want to give them some nutrition throughout those 12 weeks. So this looks like this. We already have one that we ran some tests with. We did a couple test plots on how it would grow by itself and with some nutrition added. This is a very flaky, loose mix. Like I said, it's a sterile mix. You can see the vermiculite in there. It's got some coarse and fine. So these run about $5 a bag depending on where you buy them. I know Walmart's carrying them right now in our area, and so is Lowe's. So this is an option. This is a 12-quart bag. This will do, if you're using the peat pots, the trays that have 10 trapezoids connected together, you can do 20 of those with one of these bags. We're going to be mixing 3 parts seed starting mix to 1, maybe half a part of mushroom compost, just to give it that little extra nutrition. This is our test that we did with composted cow manure. It got a little too dense. These are 3 cherry bell radishes, and they are growing. These pots hold up really well. We've had these under the lights for quite a while, and they're just like new. So we like to use radishes to test our starting mix because radishes take 4 days to germinate and 28 days maximum, maybe 30, to grow. And so we always use a variety of radish, whether it's a plum or watermelon, doesn't matter, cherry bell, whatever. It's great. Now, potting soil I would not use if you're starting indoors, because potting soil a lot of time will have spider mites, grub eggs, larvae, things of this nature. The only way I would use potting soil indoors is if you're going to sterilize it in, say, an old oven at like 170 degrees for like 20 minutes just to kill everything that's in there. Or if you're going to add boiling water to it to kill off everything and then let it dry out. But potting mix can have a fungus in it that causes what's called damping, and it will kill off your plants. They'll germinate and then they'll die. So if you're planting seeds indoors to get ready for the season, you don't want to do that. So I would say stay away from your potting mixes or compost. Again, if it's a sterile compost, you can use it. I would mix it with some seed starting mix and use that to give it its boost, like we're doing with our compost. Next, I want to talk to you about lights. This is our grow light stand. There are 3 sections here. We actually bought extenders, and I'll show you down bottom here in a minute, those extenders. These lights move independently. You can start with them directly down on your plants. You move them down, and then as your plants grow, you move them up. You would keep your lights roughly 2 to 3 inches above your plants. So you would take, the light would be about here, and then as these grew, your lights would go up. You are going to want some sort of tray underneath. With this right now, we just have this old container tray that we have sitting in for any water that runs out. These shelves do have holes on them, so water will go down through. So you either need a 10 by 20 tray, one of those disposable pans, or one of these container plastic trays, which are really cheap. These lights turn on. They are fluorescents. This is going to be bright here for a second. Okay. They turn on. They're connected together. These are 3-foot T5 bulbs. They use 38 or 39 watts a piece, I think, so they're really low power. The lights turn on and off independently. They have their own power cord. And let me take you down bottom and show you the taller section that we have. This is the taller section. Here's the bottom here. These are actually some bulbs we had planted that we were growing in here. The lights are adjustable. We have about 3 feet tall right here. These extenders are right here, and they were 19.5 inches because we knew when our tomatoes got big enough we were going to put them down here. Again, they turn on independently. You can move the height of the lights as needed. So if we have tomatoes that aren't growing as fast as the others, we can move those lights down a little bit. These are really, really good lights. They're really efficient. They take no time to put together. You put them together yourself. They come from Gardener's Supply. This is, we started with a base unit here and then did the add-ons. You can get ones that come entirely one whole height. They even have some that are 6 feet wide. This is an expensive option. If you're just getting started or you don't have the money, I don't recommend going this route. You're talking hundreds of dollars. You can start for as little as $169, which is the base unit, which is about the height of one of these top sections with this bottom shelf and the feet. As you get add-ons, they do come with clips to put them to the wall so that it doesn't fall over on you. So this is one option for your lights. The next step down for a light option is what you see up here. I have one here too. These are a 2-foot Ferry Morse T5 bulb. They are 24 watts, 6400 Kelvin. Really, really good. They fit over those trays perfectly. The trays fit right in the middle here. This is just the right height to grow your seedlings once they germinate. If you need to, you can put blocks of wood. That's why I have these up here underneath the trays to move them up closer to light. And then as I grow, you take them down. Once I get to the point to where I need to lift these up, put them right here. You can get these at almost any big box store. I know Walmart carries them. I got these from Lowe's. My wife works there. That's why I shop there so much. These ran me, I think, $38 to $40 a piece. I have 2 of these that I'm going to be putting on the table to grow my flowers under. These are a much more affordable option. And if you want to go even more affordable than that, we have another option. Clamp lights. This one has a 300 watt CFL bulb, 5500 Kelvin. The Kelvin rating is daylight. People say you can start at 5,000. I prefer to start at 5,500. This is the low I would go. You do want around 2,000 lumens. I wouldn't go below 1,800. The lumens is the amount of light it puts out. So these are actually, I'm actually a photographer. I'm an artist by trade. These came from my softboxes in my studio. I had some extras, so I use these. I just put extenders in, and they fit these reflectors. They clamp on. These are about $8. The bulbs are about $10. If you're going to buy 2 of these, which will do the work of 1 of those, I'd say spend the $40 on those. The other option, I'm not really big on these ones, but these are incandescent grow light bulbs. They're about $6 a piece. They're the same wattage, 60 watts, but they put out a lot less light than these. But these are, if you have 1 tray you want to do, or just a few tomatoes, again, a $6, $7 clamp light with a $6 bulb. This is an option as well. To hold these clamp lights, you can take a milk jug, fill it full of sand, put a piece of pipe in it or a dowel, and just clamp onto the pole, and you can move it up and down as your plants grow. So that covers lights. I know this is going to look like an ad for Ferry Morse because I have another Ferry Morse product here I want to show you, but if you grow in an environment that doesn't get very warm. This is a very old house. The heat upstairs is 2 or 3 rooms over. This is an old bedroom that we made into our grow room. There's actually no heat in here. Right now we're about 63 degrees. To grow your tomatoes and peppers, you're going to want at least 70 degrees under your seedlings to help them germinate. For tomatoes, 70, peppers, 80 to 85. Heat mat. This is similar to the old heating pad. This is a 10 by 20. It fits under one of those trays really, really well. It only uses, it says here, 17.5 watts. Very, very little electricity. 12 hours on a day, you're looking less than 200 watts. So this, in one day, we'll use the electricity that 2 100 watt bulbs do for an hour. So you're looking maybe about 3 or 4 cents a day, and it's only going to be on while you're helping your seeds germinate. Once your seeds germinate, you turn this off, you pull it out, and you let your seeds grow on their own. Without this, your peppers won't germinate really well, cucumbers might not, tomatoes won't. If your soil temp is at least 70 to 75 degrees, you may get away with it, but for $25, it's worth the investment. So there we go. We've talked about planning out your bed, what to grow them in, what to use for light, and how to help your seeds germinate. So I thank you for coming today. If you like our video, give us a like, subscribe so you can keep up with it. Again, in 13 days from today, so February 18th, we're going to start planting our tomatoes, peppers, and onions and our celery. That's right, our celery. So we're going to show you how to do that, and we're going to use those pots and some of the Ferry Morse Pro Hex cells. We'll show you how to mix up your potting mix, and you guys can get a jump on planting. So thank you and have a good day.